Welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast. I'm your host, Denney, and today's episode is a little different, but incredibly important. We're tackling the questions investors ask all the time about money, the stock market, risk, cash flow, timing, and uncertainty. These aren't hypothetical questions. These are real-world investing concerns that come up whether you're just getting started or whether you've been investing for years. And to break it all down, I've got Rich Dad expert Andy Tanner with me. Someone who's answered these questions thousands of times in real conversations with real investors. But before we do that, before we dive in, go to stockcastbonus.com. Grab your free investing tools. If you want clear answers and better decision making, that's where you start. Andy, welcome back. Let's get into it.
Hey, this sounds like a great little smorgasbord of questions. So I'll get in the batter's box and see if I can hit any of them.
All right, I love it. So before we get into the batter's box, before I throw these at you, and by the way, don't kill the messenger when I ask you these questions. I have a list of them here. Stockcast bonus. There's some great resources in there. What do our listeners get when they go there?
Well, as of this taping, we're hitting the beginning of the year. And it is, we did a podcast last time about sort of the regimen that I go through the beginning of the year. It is the ideal place. If you really say one of the goals I have is to improve financially as an investor, have more passive income, go to stockcastbonus.com. We've got some cool downloads there, things that'll help you develop habits over the next year. I know it will move the needle. And we've had huge success and feedback from the people that have used those tools. So join them and hop in. It's free, and we get to know each other better that way. So if you'd like more of what we do that can move the needle, go to stockcastbonus.com. That's where you can get that.
There you go. I love that. Okay. All right. So let's start with the basics. These are questions people ask when they're confused or they're frustrated or just unsure of where to start. But they often don't say these out loud. And I know you've been asked these 1,000 times, but I think it's good to get out there because if one person is asking it, other people are probably asking, right?
Well, I won't guarantee people like the answer, but we'll do our best.
That's what I'm excited for, is to see how Andy answers these questions. All right. So here's the first one. This is a softball question, but it is an honest question that people ask. So here's the question. Is now a good time to invest or should I wait? Andy, what's your 2 cents to that?
Depends on who you are. If you are unknowledgeable, you should never invest. You should never participate in things that you don't understand. So that's kind of like asking me, is now a good time for me to perform brain surgery? No, it's not. I don't know how to do it. Now, with that said, if people are talking about the climate, and if they're saying, is this a good climate to invest in? Again, it's who you are. It depends on what type of investing you do, right? So I often, when I get a question like that one, I often change the question because sometimes people don't know really, what they're asking or how to ask the right question. So if someone's saying, hey, Andy, is now a good time to invest or should I wait? Are you asking me, is the market going to take off or is it going to suck? Is that really what they're asking? Well, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the future, but I do know this. If a person waits to begin investing, and if a person waits, they lose a third of the compounding formula, money, rate, and time. And if you believe that compounding is a true principle, money, rate, and time is the most precious of the three. And every day that goes by that a person isn't acquiring assets is another day where they fail to apply that magical compounding formula that is huge on the back end, right? You take a year off of that thing and what it means later on is massive. So I don't think people can afford to be financially ignorant. I don't think people can afford to procrastinate it. So if you say, is now a good time to invest? The answer is yes. It's always a good time to acquire an asset that cash flows, right? But if they're really asking me, well, do you think the environment is conducive to investing? Well, I'll point that back at them and say, well, what do you know about investing? It was now a good time to buy Bitcoin. Well, what do you know about Bitcoin? And so it always, for me, comes back, and you're right. I think, I don't like to put words in Robert Kiyosaki's mouth, but I see him, he'll often get a little irritated with some of the questions like that because people are asking the wrong thing, right? They have a wrong context, in other words. So is now a good time to invest? Yes. It's a great time to learn about investing. Yes. But if a person doesn't know what they're doing, there's never a good time for an ignorant investor to invest. There's never a good time for a child to play with fire, but an adult should be playing with fire every day to cook and to light and to heat, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
a
if that
really
did that rambling make sense, Del?
it did. I like the ramble, but there's a couple things I want to pull from said rambling.
Said rambling.
Said rambling. Uh, Reframing of questions. I like the way that, and I'll say this: the older I get, the more I'm fascinated about the quality of questions. I find that the better I am at asking questions, the better my leadership is, the better my being a father is. The just better questions get better answers, right?
Better answers you get, right? Better answers
Yeah.
you get. A problem well stated is a problem half solved. Well, asking the
Ooh.
right questions, right? Asking the right questions leads you to better answers. And that's really a great insight on context, right? Is now a good time to invest? That reveals the person's context, that they believe it's an external locus of control rather than internal locus of control, right?
Mm.
As if the market was going to dictate whether I was going to be successful or not rather than myself. So those types of questions really reveal a person's context. And that's where Robert Kiyosaki, I think, is the best in the world. I've never met anyone or watched anyone or subscribed to anyone that is better than he is at helping people shift to an improved context. And questions often reveal where a person stands and where their flag's been planted.
Indeed, indeed.
So there you have it.
All right. Next question here, and I might reframe it a little bit too. But the question is, what if I lose money? And I want to reframe it a little bit. So, how should investors really think about losses and risk? So the question is, what if I lose money? But my real question is, how should investors frame or think about loss
Yeah.
and risk?
Well, let's answer two. Those are actually two great questions. What if I lose money, and how should I frame loss and risk? So let's take those in order. Rule number one by Warren Buffett, he calls this rule one. Number one is don't lose money. My friend Phil Town wrote a best-selling book called Rule Number One, right? And it's don't lose money. And so how do you make sure? So if someone says, what if I lose money? Well, then you don't have proper risk management in place, right? If there's a major loss of money, that should not happen because we should have countermeasures in place. If a plane crashes, we don't just say, oh, planes crash from time to time. We say, what went wrong? And I had a great mentor of mine. His name is Robert Manning. He's since passed. He lived in Arizona, and he worked for, he was an Air Force fighter pilot in the war. And he said that anytime there's a plane crash, 100% of the time, there's never been a plane crash, commercial or anything, where if the manual was followed, you can always trace it back to where a policy was broken or something wasn't followed or it just isn't like we shrug our shoulders and say planes crash. Well, we don't shrug our shoulders and say, well, I guess you lost money in that investment. Now, you can lose a little, but it's a lot like insurance. What if my house burns down and I lose all of the value in my house? Well, did you have insurance? Well, no. Oh, okay. Well, there's your answer. You should not ever lose money from a house fire, ever. You just shouldn't do it. And if you lost money in a house fire that's significant beyond your deductible, then there's a reason that you weren't insured. So the first question is, what happens if I lose money? You shouldn't. You shouldn't lose significant amounts of money. That doesn't mean I haven't had little losses. I'm talking about, losses that hurt, right? Now let's take your second question. And I enjoy this question. I've had a lot. How do we approach risk? This might be a nice short to pull out of this. I don't know. This is good stuff. One way to think about risk is to put on your nerd nerd Star Trek hat and look at 3 Star Trek characters and learn about Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy, and Mr. Spock, because all 3 of them have a different mindset. We don't like Captain Kirk. He's what you call a risk taker. And so, the starship is surrounded and, the Klingons are down on planet whatever, and he's going to beam down there and the odds are against him. He says, I don't care. I'm going down there because I'm the hero. We're against all odds. So he's going to take the risk. He's a risk taker. He's a risk-taking machine. And it's like in Top Gun, I'm dangerous. You're dangerous, Maverick. It's all about taking the risk and pushing the envelope and, doing the flyby and being a cowboy, right? The second is Dr. McCoy. That guy'd never make a dime. So Captain Kirk could lose all his money and Dr. McCoy would never make any money. And the way that cast is put together is every episode of Star Trek is the same. They go where no man has gone before. They face a moment of peril, and then things work out. Then they go the next episode, Captain's Log. Well, Dr. McCoy's job is to make you think that even though the last 50 episodes worked out, this is the one where we might all die. This is the one where we're not going to make it through. So he's like, damn it, Jim, do you need a sedative? You're not going down there. That's suicide. That's crazy. We'll never make it out, right? That's him. Do you need a sedative, Jim? Are you out of your Vulcan mind, Spock? Are you crazy? He's the pessimist. So he avoids risk. So the first one is a risk taker, and the second is a risk avoider. Neither of those approaches work well in the real world. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you sit on the sideline and you're panty waist, and you live in fear your whole life, fear is not a way to live. It doesn't allow anything to happen. But if you're just a risk taker and you say yes to every opportunity, you're going to get burned. So the way to do it is like Mr. Spock. And unfortunately, he's not human. He doesn't have any emotions, right? And so what he does is he says, let's look at this logically. Let's look at this analyze. What is true? What are the odds? What can we do for countermeasures? And he would be what I would call a risk manager. So 3 ways to approach risk: take it, avoid it, or manage it. I have on my team Corey Halliday. Corey Halliday runs our coaching program. He's a Series 4 option principal. Most people don't even know what that is. It means he's the head of risk management at the Wall Street firm, managing hundreds and hundreds of traders, not avoiding the risk, not allowing them to take the risk, but managing that risk effectively to make sure that that institution obeys rule number 1: don't lose money. And so it is a management of risk. So when someone says, what if I lose money? I would counter that with, well, what are your risk management strategies? What are your policies for risk? Do you understand position sizing? Do you understand hedging? Do you understand contracts? Do you understand the options market? Because if you do, you should never ever have a catastrophic loss like a plane crash going down. It should never happen. Shouldn't. In fact, if you look at a guy like Mark Cuban, it would make you richer. It would make you richer because the risk management would explode in value. It's a lot like if the house burned down, but you overinsured it, and so you got even more than the house was worth.
What a great analogy. Number one, who knew that Andy Tanner loves Star Trek this much?
I didn't say I loved it. I didn't say I loved it. It's just when I grew up, there was nothing else on. We only had 3 channels.
I agree, but it makes perfect sense, and also makes me understand Star Trek better when you break down those characters that way. Listeners, if you like Star Trek, just for
You've
giggles,
never watched Star Trek? Are you telling me you don't know who I'm talking about?
Oh no, I know exactly who you are.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
But the dynamics of it makes so much sense. Hey, we've got one that doesn't take risk, that takes too much risk, and we have a logical one that kind of mediates everybody.
Manages risk. You manage risk, right? Look, you don't take it. You don't gamble. Gamblers take risks. They bet, and it either works out or it doesn't. They have to sit and wait and see if it works out or it doesn't. That's risk taking. Making a bet. I buy Apple, and it either goes up or down, and I hope for the best. People who are afraid go to a job and they work and they never invest because they're scared. And that question you asked, What if I lose money? That's the guy I'm talking. That's Dr. McCoy asking that question. Ooh, what if I lose money? Right? Risk managers, we sleep at night like babies. We don't. I do not go to bed. Of all the things I ruminate on at night, and of all the things rolling around in my head that make me not have a night's sleep occasionally, I never think about my stocks ever. I never think about my investments simply because the risk is managed, right? I have other fish to fry. Like, is my family okay? How's my wife doing? I have other things to think about.
Good. I love that. Listeners, if you like Star Trek, throw in the comments for me.
And if
Live
you
long and
don't,
prosper. Live long, trade, and prosper. Throw in
there
a
you go,
little
man.
there. There we go. See, I told you. I knew a little
There
Star
you go.
Trek.
You got that coordinate. You've done that before. That's not the first time you've
I'm
done
right
that.
there with you.
All
I think
right,
there's
I got
Star
it.
Trek people and there's Star Wars people. Yeah, you're
I'm more
usually
of a
one or
Star
the
Wars guy, to be honest. I like,
other. Oh
but
boy!
the
All right.
hyperdrive is faster than the warp drive is faster than the hyperdrive. I will tell you that. We
We are
talk about that
really
when we do Infinite Return, different podcast.
we're really nerding out on this Stockcast
Oh, it's
today,
bad. Yeah,
but I like
we
it. I
lost them
like
all
it.
10 minutes ago, Del.
I
We lost
know,
them all
right?
10 minutes ago.
All right, I'm going to reel it back in here. Next question here. We get this one a lot. Do I need a lot of money to start investing? What's
No.
your go-to on that one?
No. How about that for a short answer? No. If you'd
Perfect.
like me to elaborate, I'll put it this way. Here's a phrase that's worth, I don't have any wiki quotes, so maybe I ought to try to make some. But here's one that would be a wiki quote if we had Andy's wiki quote. The rich invest as if they had no money. So in my book, 401 Chaos, the new one that's coming out, I tell a story in there about a homeless guy and a billionaire, and they make the same investment. And the reason both of them make the same investment is because neither of them require money. So let's make a more concrete example, not to get too detailed. Let's stay big picture. I have a great friend named Than Merrill. He's one of my dearest, closest friends. I just love that man. He is such a good father, such a good example to me. And you know Than as well. And one night Than was doing a presentation raising money for a real estate deal. He was presenting an opportunity for investors that got money and they don't know where to put the cash. They've got excess cash and they're looking for an investment. So Than will get a project. Maybe it's like a mall or a big commercial building or a huge single family homes or whatever the complex is. And maybe say it's $80 million, something like that, like 80 million bucks. He'll say the bank will take care of, let's say, 60 million of it. And he's going to have these private investors take care of 20 million of it to raise the whole 80 to buy it. And I had my sons watch one of these presentations he gave, and I think Zach was probably 10 years old. And after we watched it, I said, "What did you learn?" And he said, I think the most important thing, Dad, was sponsorship equity. I said, "Interesting you would pick that out." He said, "Than has no money in the deal. His whole machine and apparatus requires zero money from him because he's the one that's putting the deal together. He gets a piece of it. He gets ownership simply by bringing all the parties together and managing the whole thing. And so the bank is happy. They don't want to manage it and put it together. And the equity people, they're happy. The investors, they don't have to put it together. And so his business model operates that it literally requires that he put in none of his money because that would limit how many he could do every year. In other words, he has an unlimited number of deals he can do because the structure of his business requires no money of his own. So the answer is, do I need a lot of money to invest? No. The rich invest is that they have no number, which brings us to the idea that if the people often say, if you took wealthy people like Than or Kenny or Robert or Kim or whoever, and you clean them out, you took all the money and redistributed the wealth, which socialists like to do, it just winds back up in the same pockets because they don't require money to get there. So the quote is this: The rich invest as if they had no money. Their mechanisms are created in a way that money's not part of the equation for them to have to use their own money. In the stock market, it's different in that we reduce the amount of money a person puts in by a different type of leverage. A guy like Than or Kenny are leveraging bank and private investors. They leverage those. That's their form of leverage, where they can do a lot with a little, and in that case, nothing. We do it a different way. We don't borrow money from investors or banks. We don't even use margin, even though it's available. We use options, and that is a lever, allows us to do more with less. And I would also say this to that person: boy, you put a nickel in me. I have had these questions before, so I've kind of got some pre-made answers because I've been asked all these over 30 years. The other thing to think about is when a person says, well, I don't have a lot of money to invest. Well, let's see if that's really your limiting factor. Let's say that I brought you over to my house, we opened up my garage, and I had a DeLorean. I mean, if we're going to go Star Trek, we'll go, Michael J. Fox here.
Back to the Future.
And inside that DeLorean is a flux capacitor that's nuclear. And if you get it up to 88 miles an hour, you can go anywhere you want in the future or the past. Now, Biff, the villain, did this. And he went to the future, and he got a sports almanac, and he stole it. And he got back in the DeLorean and went back to his present day with the future in his hands. Did he have any money? Now, as a result of knowing the future, he became wildly rich, right? In that meta universe, right? So if you knew the future, would you really need money? Which would you rather have? $10,000 right now, I'll write you a check, or the ability to see the future? Which one would make you rich? So the idea of, do I need a lot of money to invest? I would say no. Do you need a lot of knowledge to invest? Yes. Do you need discipline to invest? Yes. Do you need habits to invest? Yes. Do you need temperament to invest? Yes. And all of those things, knowledge, discipline, temperament, all of those things are what are called personal development. They are yours for the taking. They are yours. You don't need a genie to grant you those wishes. You can develop those things within yourself. And then once you have that, money is the tiniest issue.
I love that. I love these movie references, but let's take a quick break.
Hey, you put a nickel in me, you know what you're going to get. So hey,
I know. I do enjoy this.
You gotta live with it.
I love the movie references too. I don't know if everyone will get them, but I certainly have.
Anyone, my kids wouldn't get them. I'll tell you that.
I know, right? Yeah. What is Back to the Future? That's what they're going to be asking. Listeners, those questions that we just talked about alone are keeping a lot of people stuck on the sidelines. But when we come back, we're going to tackle the questions investors ask once they're in the game and they want to get better. And don't forget, go to stockcastbonus.com. Download your free resources. These tools are designed to help you to move forward from confusion to confidence. Stick around. We'll be right back.
So far, it's been great. I needed a source where I could really enrich my education through stocks. I didn't really have an avenue for it, and it's helped me a lot. The simplicity has really gotten me on the track to where I enjoy the learning as well as it's really solidifying in my mind. And they're not just trying to sell you something, they really care about the people that are in the course, and they really do care about you and your personal goals, and what you want to do is to help you and your family and whatever your goals are in life through that. So it's really been great.
Welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast. Now, let's level up. Andy, these are questions people ask once they're serious about improving results. And so here's the list of questions for you. Here's the first one. And you kind of mentioned this a little bit with temperament. The question is, how do I build confidence without gambling?
Boy, that's a great question. Confidence is knowing the outcome. That's what confidence is. Confidence is when I approach the free throw line and, I feel like it's going in. I just believe that I know what's going to happen. When I go over to the light switch and I flick it. I just believe the lights are going to go on, right? I have confidence. Confidence comes from success, and it's kind of an upward cycle. When I coached basketball, youth basketball, these parents had come to me that, don't know what they're doing. They say, this so-and-so coach, I wanted to play for you because so-and-so coach, he killed my son's confidence. I'm like, well, don't have him play for me then, because I don't want a kid with no confidence. And if a coach can kill your kid's confidence, then, you don't want to play for me. When I've told this story before, but my son came to me in third grade, and we tried every sport other than basketball first. I knew he was going to be tall like me. He was born large, and they make those projections. But I didn't want him to choose basketball because I did it. It had to be his choice. So we did jiu-jitsu first, get him tough. Then we did baseball, and then we did football, and, went along the line. And in third grade, when he was 8 years old, he said, Dad, I want to play in college like you did. I want to do exactly what you did. I says, well, can't guarantee that, son, but let's make sure you're skilled. So you can't have a 8-year-old kid shoot, 100 threes a day, because he can't even throw it that far. You're going to ruin his body. But you can have him shoot a few 15-footers, and then when he gets older. So once he got old enough, we created we just did the math. And we said, what do we think it would take for you to make, not shoot, but make 1 million three-point shots before your senior year? So when you go into your senior year of high school, you've experienced a three-point make 1 million times in your life. That's a lot of shots in that amount of years. And he surpassed that. And I remember we were in an overtime game, and he had missed 3 threes in the regular time. He missed 3 of them, and they were open threes. I mean, they were wide open and, in and out, whatever. Their best player on the team, get better than my son, fouls out, and the point guard gets taken out with a concussion, and he's seeing triple. And so we battle back, and we tie the score, and we go into overtime, and Zach drills 2 threes. One is the game winner to win the game, drills 2 threes, and his coach knew it. And he told me after, he said, I had no doubt, because I know he shot 1 million threes, and you just can't keep the ball out of the hole forever. And Zach didn't even hesitate, having missed the previous ones, because those 3 misses in the game were balanced against over 1 million makes where he didn't have to think about it. So confidence comes from success. Now, there's another place, if you don't have any success of your own to build and start that upward spiral. The other place confidence comes from is you can borrow it. So let me give a scenario. This is really important if you'd like to have more confidence. I've traded. I can't put a number. I know how many shots my son has shot. I can't tell you how many options I've traded. I have no idea. It's an astronomical number. I mean, it's just beyond what I could count now. I've done this for so many years, and I know how to do protective puts, and I know how to hedge, and I know how to delta hedge, and I know how to manage these risks. So what if you have no victories? And I said to you, okay, you have no victories, you have no confidence. What if you and I did this together? What if you and I became partners, and I took you by the hand and I walked you through it? I remember when I was diagnosed with cancer, I didn't have much confidence in the future. I had a lot of unknowns. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I just remember going into Dr. Sauce, my oncologist, who's now retired, but I just remember that meeting with him, and he took me by the hand, and he shook my hand, gave me a nice firm handshake, and he said, Andy, I've done this 1,000 times. I know how we're going to treat this. It's not going to be fun, but I know how we're going to treat it, and I know how we're going to do it, and we're going to do this regimen, and we caught yours early, and you're going to be fine. And so just trust me. And the confidence of him saying, I've done this 1,000 times, man. This ain't my first rodeo. He had the wins under his belt to say that. So if you don't have confidence, then find the person that has done what you want to do 1,000 times and say, would you help me get some wins under my belt as I get started? And that's the problem with damn school, is they don't let you get on, keep your eyes on your own paper. How many of you heard that? Keep your eyes on your own paper. Do your own work. Go solo. Hell no. get your eyes on my paper. Come look at what my paper is. Go to stockcastbonus.com for free and look on my paper. Look at my paper. But people think they're conditioned, they got to do stuff on their own. So 2 things with confidence. Wins and results give us the confidence to know the outcome. And if you don't have that million shots under your belt yet, you haven't gone through those many wins, and you haven't traded 1,000 options and thousands of contracts, well, then hang on to someone who has, and stop looking for deals and start looking for people who are confident. Last thing I'll say on confidence. It's impossible. It's not impossible. How can I say this? There's no such, I would never tell my sons to act confident. Be confident. There's a difference. People who are acting confident are not confident. That's why they're having to act as if they are, because they're not. So acting confident is total baloney. It's a facade. You're either confident or you're not. And so I don't tell my kids, well, fake it till you make it. No, just make it. Just freaking be confident and do what it takes to get there, whether it's putting in your million shots or getting a mentor. Either way, you don't have to fake Like when I sit down with Corey Halliday and we build a trade together, I don't have to fake the confidence. I have it because he's done it and I've done it. And we don't have to fake it. You don't have to act confident. So those 3 ideas: make a million shots, have success, find mentors who have made the million shots if you haven't. And then don't think you can fake confidence, because if you're faking it, you don't have it. You're faking it.
That's fantastic.
Cheers. You ask me these questions and I go on these rants. Wait, we'll get in a Golden Goose reference eventually here at some point.
We might as well just throw it in right there. Sake of time, I'm going to ask one more question, but I do like the idea of borrowing someone else's confidence. Like, what a great thing. I love mentors to be able to speed that up, no matter what it is in your life that you can do. That's fantastic. For the listener, what's the smartest next step? What's an action step someone who wants to get better at trading right now? What could they do?
Well, I imagine that's going to depend on where the person is, right? Could I give one answer that would fit 1 million people? Probably not. But I'll tell you, there are some general things that everyone can do. First of all, if you want to get better at something, practice it. So learn how to have a paper trade account and get a mentor and start practicing. Mentorship is great at any age and at any level. I was talking with Corey and Noah the other day. I was like, it's been a while since I brought in a major mentor into my life. I've had so many in the past that I thought, one of the things in 2026 that I want to look at is who's the next mentors I'm going to bring into my life, right? So mentors, practice, learning, those are never bad ideas. It's never a bad idea to learn more about what you're doing. It's never a bad idea to seek out counsel from other people that have done the same thing and collaborate and masterminds. It's never a bad idea to do that. So, we always set up, that's a great question to set up stockcastbonus.com. There's resources there where you can look on my paper and say, well, what is it that Andy does that has seemed to work out for him? Well, I outlined some of those things there with some of those free downloads. So that's a great first step. So yeah, you can have confidence in that because there's no downside to it. Go check it out.
There you go. I love it. Well, let's do this. Let's wrap it up. Investors, smart investors, don't have all the answers, but they do ask better questions. And so, when you understand how to think about money and the market, everything changes. And Andy, a big thank you to you for breaking this down for us so clearly, especially with all the movie references. Well, I know I loved it for sure. Listen, if you want clear answers and stronger investing frameworks, go to stockcastbonus.com right now. You'll find free tools and education to help you think smarter, manage risk, and build confidence. It's almost like having Andy right there with you. If this episode helped you, make sure you like it, subscribe, share it with someone who's asking the same questions you were. You're not here by accident. You're building something that most people won't. So stay smart, stay invested, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.